Hello, my fellow Ethereans. This is Mike Jenkins bringing you an interim episode while we wait for this weekend's She-Ra Princess of Power comprehensive Catra review. Today I'm going to show off some characters that were featured on the She-Ra Princess of Power show that were, for all points and purposes, exclusively Masters of the Universe. Technically, the She-Ra cartoon series is an unofficial season 3 to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That show ran for 2 seasons, 65 episodes each, from 1983 to 1985. And then the show was ended in a decision by both Mattel and Filmation in the interest of starting She-Ra Princess of Power instead of doing a season 3 of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. At that point, it was decided that 65 episodes between 2 seasons, that's 130 episodes. That's plenty of episodes to air and package the show and sell it off to other channels and networks that were interested in showing the series. And so there really was no need to make any more episodes of Masters of the Universe. They could have continued, but financially, there really wasn't a need to do it. And of course, She-Ra Princess of Power had evolved and split off into its own entity, its own separate entity. There are pieces of She-Ra history that show that She-Ra belonged in Masters of the Universe as a toy line originally. She wasn't always a separate toy line. But as the concept evolved and as certain things were happening in the girls department, the ultimate decision came that the She-Ra concept would be split off and made into its own separate and distinct toy line. And as that concept, as that property evolved and developed, decisions were made to create a cartoon series to promote the toy line, and She-Ra Princess of Power was born. It essentially is it's an unofficial season 3 of Masters of the Universe. Half of the cast of She-Ra Princess of Power is Masters of the Universe toys. The Evil Horde is technically a Masters of the Universe toy line. Most of the characters in the Evil Horde are based on Masters of the Universe toys. There are other characters like Shadow Weaver and Scorpia and even Imp that were exclusive to the show. They were created exclusively for the She-Ra Princess of Power show. But other core villains like Hordak, Leech, Mantenna, Grizzlor, Modulok, Multibot, all of those characters are pulled right from the toy line. And I'm not going to talk about the Evil Horde here. So for all points and purposes, if it was Evil Horde in the toy line, it was slated to appear on the She-Ra cartoon series, although there are 1 or 2 toys like Dragstore that unfortunately didn't make it to the cartoon series. These characters that I'm showing off here are mostly, well, I'll say half are Great Rebellion and half are Evil Horde. And essentially what ended up happening when I say unofficial He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Season 3 is that the She-Ra Princess of Power cartoon series was used to market Masters of the Universe toys beyond the evil horde. So you have Snout Spout, Stone Dar, and Rock On here on the left. They are heroic warriors that were released in the Masters of the Universe toy line. But by the time they were released in 1986, the Masters of the Universe cartoon series was gone. And since She-Ra Princess of Power was technically half Masters of the Universe, it made sense to debut these characters or find a way to debut these characters on the She-Ra cartoon series. So Snout Spout appears in 3 episodes and the Christmas special. And Stone Dar and Rock On, along with Granada, who did not get a figure released, appeared in several episodes as well. On the right here, we have Rio Blast, who, as is, did not appear in the cartoon series, but a character by the name of Colonel Blast, who is a warrior from the evil horde, is based directly on the same concept that Rio Blast is based on. So the concept that evolved into Rio Blast actually resembles Colonel Blast more closely, but the toy line went on to make the character a heroic character as opposed to an evil horde character. And then on the end here, we have Tongue Lasher and Ratlore, who in the toy line were part of the Snakemen evil faction. They were not a part of the horde. As you can see with the chest symbols, or the chest symbol and the belt symbol, Tongue Lasher and Ratlore were Snakemen. And all of these figures were released in 1986. And over the course of Season 1, which ran from 1985 to 1986, these characters were introduced on the show. The Snakemen faction was debuted in 1986, and the leader of the Snakemen, who is King Hiss, is strangely absent from the cartoon series. I would presume that that's probably because we already had Skeletor and Hordak as faction leaders, and it was already tricky trying to find a way to fit Hordak into the She-Ra cartoon series. It would have been more difficult to find a way to fit King Hiss in there and take more screen time from Princess of Power characters. So it was an interesting time to release Masters of the Universe figures. 1987 brought on the Meteorbs. So I don't have any Meteorbs in my collection, but Comet Cat and Dinosaur were released in 1987, and they had the opportunity to make it into the She-Ra cartoon series before the show was canceled. And Laser Bolt was a vehicle from the Masters of the Universe toy line that was shown off. So just wanted to show off some Masters of the Universe toys outside of the Evil Horde that were shown off in the She-Ra Princess of Power toy line, or She-Ra Princess of Power cartoon series. I consider them Princess of Power, and some people don't, but for all points and purposes, since they did appear on the She-Ra Princess of Power show, they're Princess of Power to me. So that is it. That was my quick rant on these characters. I'll probably break down and do reviews of each character on their own later on once the actual vintage Princess of Power toy line reviews are done. But for now, TTFN, and see you this weekend for Catra.